Snow Flipper Penguin is a power creep from Wisp. It is now a 0 mana 1/1 beast instead of one that has no tribe. Oh my god, OP! It went from 0 stars to 0 stars. Next we have the Acarus Veteran. Is a 1 mana 2/1 with Battlecry. Give a friendly minion +1 attack permanently. So, you know, it's pretty good. It's a 1 mana 2/1, so it's already pretty nice. And it also makes one of your minions trade up, or you can go face more of this. So yeah, this is a good 1-drop. If you want a 1-drop, it's good. But then the problem is with Arena, you don't want a lot of 1-drops, right? You have to be very careful. The only deck that really wants a lot of 1-drops is Hunter. So yeah, I think this is a 3-star card. I think it's fine. Next we have the Dead Scaled Knight. It's a 1 mana 1/1 Murloc with Lifesteal. Yeah, 1/1 Lifesteal is not going to help too much, and it's a 1/1, so it literally dies to anything. It doesn't trade with any 2-drops, and gaining 1 life or even 2 life is not enough for this card to be good. So a very, very easy 1-star card. Wretched Tiller is a 1 mana 1/1 that whenever this attacks, deal 2 damage to the enemy hero. So yeah, this is once again not a card that you want in your deck because, well, sure, it smorts your opponent for a lot, but you're still playing a 1/1. It doesn't give you a lot of board and damage to the face. While it's cool, while it's relevant, it's not as relevant as, you know, playing a 1 mana 2/1. So yeah, this card sucks. 1 star. Fallen Sun Cleric is a 2 mana 2/1 with Battlecry. Give a friendly minion +1/+1. So very, very powerful effect because it's basically a 2 mana 3/2 with 1/1 with some of the stats being charged, right? Because if you're giving a friendly minion +1/+1 and it's already on the board, it gets to actually attack immediately. So yeah, pretty strong card. And just for the low cost of 2 mana, and your opponent kind of has to ping this because otherwise, you know, you get outvalued a lot. So I'm pretty happy with Fallen Sun Clerics in my deck. It is a 2-drop that's not play on 2, so just keep that in mind. I think it's a 3-star card. Pretty solid. We have Tainted Zealot for our next card. Is a 2 mana 1/1. It has Divine Shield and it's spell damage +1. So with spell damage, obviously it's better in some decks compared to other decks. So stuff like Maelstrom Portal, Arcane Explosion, you know, those Arcane Missiles, right? Those cards benefit from spell damage quite a bit, and you'll know when spell damage is going to be good. As a minion itself, it is an overcosted Argent Squire, which is still fine. So I think this is like 3 stars in decks that can actually use this effect, and it's a 1-star for decks that are more weapon-based decks, like Hunter and Warrior, right? Because you don't actually get to use the spell damage. Which basically applies to Tuskar Fisherman as well. 2 mana 2/3 Battlecry. Give a friendly minion spell damage +1. Now this is a little bit different because it's a 2 mana 2/3, which is always something you want to play. You always want to draft 2 mana 2/3s. So it's at the minimum of 3 stars. This improves to a 4-star when you are playing one of those decks that I mentioned, right? This decks that can actually take advantage of the spell damage. So yeah, once again, shamans, mages, you know, druids, those decks actually do want spell damage. So 3 to 4 stars depending on the class you chose. Death Speaker is a 3 mana 2/4 with Battlecry. Give a friendly minion immune this turn. Now this is a very good arena card because it effectively gives Divine Shield. When you give a friendly minion immune, you're not going to go face because you're effectively wasting it. Sure, there are some board states where you want to race your opponent and you just want to play a tempo 3 mana 2/4, and that's completely serviceable. But you play this on a poisonous minion and then you just laugh. You play this on a big attack minion and you just laugh. And it's a 3 mana 2/4, which is like fine. It's not good stats, but the effect makes it a good minion, so it's a 4-star card. Pretty strong. Heelnir Frost Rider is a 3 mana 4/4. Battlecry freezes your other minions. I think this is completely playable around because you can just cast this first and then cast your other minions, or you can just attack first and then play a 3 mana 4/4. You can also just hold this and not play it until your opponent wipes your board and you get a 3 mana 4/4. So it's overall a very, very strong card. 3 mana 4/4 is very above the curve. You actually get to kill a 2-drop for sure, because 2 mana 3/2s and 2 mana 2/3s exist. So this gets a 4-star rating. It's a very, very strong card. Fear Ghoul is a 3 mana 3/1 with if your opponent's turn, summon a 2/2 Ghoul. So I think this card is also very, very strong, and the fact that it's very versatile. You play this, your opponent pings it, and then you get a 2/2. So you one-up them, and if you go face, then your opponent is kind of forced to kill this. If your opponent plays a 4-3, you can actually trade and be perfectly happy with it because it's a 3-drop that trades for a 3-drop. So overall, it's a solid minion, and I think it'll be fine. So it's a 3-star card. Grave Shambler is a 4-mana 4/4 elemental with whenever your weapon is destroyed, gain +1/+1. So it's a little bit better in weapon decks, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's that much better because a 4-mana 5/5, while it's really, really good, I don't think it's like out of the ordinary. And you also need a weapon when you play this, and you also need to use the last charge of it. And this, you can also, you also might be playing this in non-weapon decks. So yeah, at the end of the day, 4-mana 4/4 is fine. And I don't think this is anything super exciting. I think this is just 2 stars. You compare this to like Backroom Bouncer and whatnot, and Backroom Bouncer seems even better. And Backroom Bouncer was a 2-star card. So yeah, this is just 2 stars. Oh, interesting. I guess this card is pretty good in Rogue, because you can actually refresh your weapon every single time. So yeah, I guess in Rogue, you would want to play this. So yeah, it improves to a 3 stars if you are playing Rogue. Yeah, that's interesting. Good job, chat. Chat is right. Next, we have the Grim Necromancer. For 4 mana, you get a 2/4. Summon 2 1/1 skeletons. So it's a lot of stats split across a lot of bodies. And yeah, this is actually pretty sweet because it gives you a lot of minions and synergizes with a lot of things, such as, you know, Direwolf Alpha, Flametongue Totem, Cult Master. There's a lot of things that rewards you for having a big board. Frostwolf Warlord, for example, right? So I think this is great. And it's a little bit better than Gnomish Dragon Maker, right? The 4-mana 2/4 make a 2/1. This is a bit better because it is more resilient to ping. If you get your 1/1 ping, you still have the other 1/1, whereas the I'm just gonna call it Dragon Maker, man. Whereas the Dragon Maker, you ping it off and you just left with 2/4. So I think Grim Necromancer is actually good. It's a fine minion. So 3-star card. Dragonlane mechanic, yes. Night Howler is a 4-mana 3/4 with whenever this minion takes damage, gain +2 attack. So very similar to Gurubashi Berserker. I think this is a problem because as a 4-mana 3/4, the stats are not abysmal, right? It's gonna take damage and then turn into a 5/1 or 5/2, and that's the best case situation. The worst case situation is it just gets killed off by a 4/4, and that would feel pretty bad. So I think this is a 2-star card. I think this is one of the below average 4/drops. But then if you can, you know, if you can actually make this work, so for example, like Priest, you can buff its health, heal it back, then, you know, it might be a bit better. So something like Gurubashi, right? Gurubashi is good in Priest as well. But this is a pretty disappointing 4-drop. Next, we have Wicked Skeleton. For 4 mana, you get a 1/1, so terrible. But you get to gain +1/+1 for each minion that died this turn. So once again, this is also kind of bad. You need to enable a lot of trades, and then you get a 4 mana 5/5. So whoop they freaking do. You don't even play a 4 mana 5/5 on turn 4 because you know, trading 2 things and then playing this on turn 4 seems highly unlikely. And then what's the worst case situation? Well, the worst case is you kill 1 creature and it's a 4 mana 2/2. That's absolutely abysmal. I do not want this. I do not want to play this in any of my arena decks, at least not the good ones. 1-star card. Alright, next we have Bloodworm. It's a 5 mana 4/4 with lifesteal. It's a beast. So lifesteal is really good in bigger bodies, and while this is a 5 mana 4/4, so you're playing a little bit below the curve, you're getting lifesteal, and that actually will help you stabilize against some boards. And of course, there are some classes that can buff the stats of this and make it really powerful. You know, give it taunt and whatnot, and you know, you mess up your opponent's combat. Incidental healing in a minion is really good. So this is a good minion. I think I would draft this. 3-star card. Kobold Scalebane. Wow, talk about insane commons. This is a 5 mana 5/5 dragon with, at the end of your turn, give another random friendly minion +3 attack. So it's an 8/5 even another minion, right? So this gets pretty ridiculous. Because the 5 mana 5/5 is already really strong stats, and then it also has an upside attached to it. So yeah, I think this is actually, the attack is actually very relevant, because now if it makes your other minions trade upwards, and trading upwards for small minions is exactly what you want to do, right? There are some decks which can even get more insane with this. So for example, if you're playing Paladin or Shaman, you can use Hero Power in turn 7 and then play this and actually get like a 3/2 totem or 4/1 dude. Like, that is really powerful. And then if they kill that token you made, you can just keep this Kobold Scalebane into play, right? This is one of those cards that are like a must kill. It doesn't look like a 5-star card because you feel like, wow, this is just 5/5 and it requires something, but it is a 5-star card, okay? Like, I'm You're gonna be impressed with this card. This is gonna be a very, very annoying card to deal with in Arena. A Skellymancer is a 5-mana 2/2 with Death Rattle. If it's your opponent's turn, summon an 8/8 skeleton. Now, this is like the best card to deal with AoE. Okay, like if you're playing against a mage, if you're playing against like a shaman, for example, classes that have AoEs that they have to just AoE your whole board. Like this is just nutsos, right? Plus, you can also give this taunt or something, and then it gets really annoying for your opponent to deal with. So yeah, if you can actually combo this card out, then it gets nutsos. So this is a build around. I think this is like a 3-star card, but then in some classes, this can get even more insane. But let's just give this a 3 stars. I think it's fine. Alright, we have Sunborn Valkyr. It's a 5-mana 5/4 with Battle Cry. Give adjacent minions +2 health. Oh my goodness. 5-mana 5/8s are now a thing in Arena. Of course, this is not as strong as Kobold Scalebane because to unleash the full potential of this card, you do need 2 minions, right? If you buff 1 minion, I think it's perfectly fine. 5-mana 5/4 gives something +2 health is still a really good card, right? And in the worst case situation, you play this as a naked 5-mana 5/4, and I think that's also completely fine. It's not insane, but whatever, right? I think the upside of this card is like pretty high. You just get to reinforce your board, and you trade upwards. You get to you don't trade upwards, but you get to trade and keep your minion, and that's pretty strong. So I think it's a 4-star card. Pretty powerful. Venomancer is a 5-mana 2/5 poisonous minion. You compare this to the Emperor Cobra, and this seems much worse. But at the end of the day, it's still a minion with poisonous. So even though it's a little bit more expensive, 5-mana 2/5s avoid a lot of board clears. And if you can actually heal this back up, if you can buff its health and stuff like that, it can actually kill multiple things. So Venomancer is a very sneaky 3-star card, in the sense that it doesn't seem that good, but poisonous is a good effect. So yeah, I'll give this 3 stars. Next we have Necrotic Geist. It's a 6-mana 5/3 with whenever one of your other minions dies, summon a 2/2 ghoul. There are board states where your opponent just can't win when you play Necrotic Geist, right? Because they can't remove this card. Your 2/2s that come up will summon another 2/2, right? Because it's just kind of like reciprocates itself. So yeah, there are some board states which this can get kind of out of hand. So yeah, I think this is completely fine. And as a 6-mana 5/3, it's pretty bad. 3 health does get removed pretty easily, but I think the upside is definitely kind of worth it. So yeah, Necrotic Geist gets a 3-star card. Gets a 3 stars from me. Alright, Spellweaver is a 6-mana 4/4 with spell damage +2. I think having a big minion with spell damage is reasonable in Arena because, just random effects deal damage all the time, right? It is very, very below the curve in terms of stat value, so it doesn't trade for anything. But if you get to combo this out with spells, then it's serviceable. I think in practice, it's going to be really hard to have Spellweaver on the board and a spell because, at the end of the day, it's a 6-drop. I think you'll do better with just a 6-mana 6/6, honestly. So I think Spellweaver gets a... I want to give this a 1-star, so I will. Bone Mare! Oh, baby! 7-mana 5/5. Okay, so that's pretty bad. What's the effect? Well, the effect is Battle Cry. Give a friendly minion +4/+4 and taunt. Okay, this card is absolutely ridiculous, right? So 7-mana 9/9. +4/+4. So 4 of those stats might even be charged. Okay, if you put it on a minion that's on in the battlefield, and then what? Your opponent has to deal with it because it gives taunt as well. Why does it give taunt as well? Like, holy Jesus, this card is like beyond ridiculous, right? If you compare this to Blessing of Kings is 4-mana +4/+4, right? This is cast Blessing of Kings. It's a 3-mana 5/5, and then randomly gives their minion taunt. Insane card. Absolutely insane card. There are some situations where it's going to be hard to make this work because you don't have another minion. But man, the upside of this card is just actually ridiculous. Easiest 5-star card ever. Alright, next we have a Happy Cool. It's a 3 mana 3/3. Cost 0 if your hero was healed this turn. You're not really gonna make it cost 0 in Arena. And making it cost 0 is not something that's like out of the ordinary now anyways. Because there's a card that's Nerubian Prophet that already exists that there's a lot of times it costs 0 anyways. So I don't think having a 0 mana 3/3 is that insane based on the requirement that you need to heal yourself. I guess it is okay in Priest because Priest tends to lose a lot of tempo, but in other classes I think it's just normal. So yeah, I'm just gonna give this like 3 stars because it's a 3 mana 3/3. It's fine, and it's better in some decks than others. Oh, it also works with lifesteal, so yeah. If you have some lifesteal minions, then maybe you can get a 0 mana 3/3. Next, you get the What Face Mindbreaker. For 3 mana, you get a 2/5 with hero powers are disabled, so that's both players. I think 3 mana 2/5s are fine. I mean, they're never ridiculous, and they're reasonable as well. Like, they trade pretty well because usually 2-drops are 3/2s or 2/2s. So you do get a little bit of a bonus, and the hero power being disabled, well, it doesn't really tend to come up too often, right? I mean, disabling a mage hero power or disabling a paladin hero power seems okay. So there are uses of this, but I don't think it's like ridiculous, right? So 3 stars for What Face. Shallow Gravedigger. 3 mana 3/1 with Death Rattle. Add a random Death Rattle minion to your hand. Death Rattle minions can range from being very shitty to being very good, and it's a 3 mana 3/1 that draws a card. I think you just want to play these because in Arena, value cards are very, very hard to find. So I think this is a very easy 4-star card because, yeah, you just fit this in any deck. Even if your opponent pings off 3/1s, I think it's completely fine because you are effectively trading 1 mana because you play the 3 mana card, right? 3 mana, they spend 2 mana, so effectively you're spending 1 mana to draw a random Death Rattle card, and that is okay with me. Keening Banshee is a 4 mana 5/5 with whenever you play a card, remove the top 3 cards of your deck. Now, the problem with 4 mana 5/5s with this effect is very bad because you want your 4 mana 5/5s to survive, right? You don't want to just trade this off and go like, okay, we'll make that trade, right? Because otherwise, why don't just play a 4 mana 5/4 or 4 mana 5/3, right? So because you want this to live, the self-mill is actually pretty bad because the more this lives, the more you actually get to fatigue. Because this is actually Fel Reaver, right? In Fel Reaver, there are arena games where you actually get to mill your opponent's deck. And this is a little bit better. This is a little bit better because you do get to control when it happens. But I don't think having an extra attack makes this a good card, or having extra health. However you want to look at this, right? Because it just has 1 more stat than a random 4-drop. So yeah, I'm just gonna give this 2 stars. I think 4 mana 5/5 is still good, but like, I don't think it's insane. Next we have a Fandom Free Buto. 4 mana 3/3 with Battlecry, gain stats equal to your weapons. I don't think this is actually gonna work too well in Arena because if you actually buff this, usually the durability is 1, right? And then usually your attack of the weapon is 3 or 4 or whatever. This is gonna be a 4 mana 6/4 or 4 mana 5/4 or something like that if you have a weapon. So you're not even breaking the curve with this. And what's the downside? Well, the downside is you're playing a 4 mana 3/3. So actually pretty bad. I want to actively stay away from this card, even if I'm playing weapons. So if I'm not playing any weapons, this is like a 1-star card. And if I'm playing weapons, this is also a 1-star card. Yeah, I don't want this. Serenade Chain Gang is a 4 mana 2/3 taunt with Battlecry. Summon a copy of this minion. So obviously it's better with hand buffs because you buff this in your hand and you get 2, 3, 4s and it's really good. I'm gonna argue that Serenade Chain Gang is already really good by itself because, well, what does this card remind you of? Feral Spirits. Feral Spirits is exactly this card. Without the overload, it's a little bit cheaper, but then it doesn't really benefit from hand buffs as well. So Serenade Chain Gang, I think it's very, very solid. I think you just actively want as many of these as you can. So yeah, 4-star card. One problem with Serenade Chain Gang is that it has 3 dudes in the picture and it only has 2 summon minions. So yeah, it's 0 stars in terms of flavor. Ticking Abomination is a 4 mana 5/6. It has, well, you guessed it, it's a bad Death Rattle. Death Rattle deal 5 damage to your minions. So 4 mana 5/6 is really, really powerful. It actually trades upwards to a lot of things. 6 health is insane, okay? It actually kills 5/5s. The Death Rattle, you can actually play around because you're not gonna be stupid, right? You're not gonna play Ticking Abomination and then next turn you're gonna play like 3/2 drops or something, or like that's just stupid, right? So you're gonna actually milk as much value as you can from Ticking Abomination before you play minions, and that way I kind of feel like this is like a Ventricle Mercenary, because Ventricle Mercenary basically says, well, you have this minion on your board, you can't play minions anyways, right? So this is kind of like the same thing. So I think Ticking Abomination is actually pretty good if you're playing smartly. So I think Ticking Abomination gets like yeah, I think it's 3 stars. I think you want to put this in your deck. 5 mana 3/3 Corpse Raiser. Okay, 5 mana 3/3 is pretty bad. What does it have? Battle Cry. Give a friendly minion Ancestral Spirit. Now that is super damn powerful, okay? There's not a lot of silence effects nowadays in Arena, and giving one of your minions Death Rattle can be very, very backbreaking. So imagine this is a 5 mana 3/3, summon a minion that's already on the battlefield, right? It can range from a normal 2/3, which is still fine, right? A 5 mana 3/3 summon a 2/3 is fine, to something ridiculous. So put it on a Soonwalker, put it on a Grime Street Enforcer, right? Put it on a Death Rattle card. Like this card can get pretty nutsos. So I think the ceiling is pretty high for this card, and I think I want to play this card in most of my decks. I'll give this a 4 stars. And then finally we have Bone Drake. It's a 6 mana 6/5 dragon, so that's pretty good. It has Death Rattle, add a random dragon to your hand. Okay, what? So you're playing a 6 mana 6/5 that draws a card. That's ridiculous. That's utterly ridiculous, right? 6/5 is insane. And you're also, the subset of dragons are actually really powerful. I mean, I'm not gonna be unhappy if this always draws me Fairy Dragon, because that's the worst dragon, right? And you're telling me that there's a chance that you can get better than a Fairy Dragon? And this is also a very aggressively statted because it's a 6/5. Yeah, give me all Bone Drakes, man. Easiest 5 stars as a dragon card as I ever give. Yeah. Very, very good card. 5 stars. Onwards to the epics, we have Drakari Enchanter. It's a 3 mana 1/5 with your end of turn effects triggered twice. So once again, this really depends on the draft, but even if you have a lot of end of turn effects, this just copies it, right? So it's a 3 mana 1/5 that gives something plus attack, or draws, or like, that's usually what happens, right? Gives something plus health. 3 mana 1/5 with that effect is still really bad. So I think you actively don't want this, because that's the best case situation. The worst case situation is you play this and nothing happens. Yeah, 1 star. Corpse Taker is a 4 mana 3/3. Battlecry, gain taunt if your deck has a taunt minion, and then it works for Divine Shield, Lifesteal, and Wind Fury as well. So this is obviously better in some classes than others. There are some classes that can get Divine Shield easier. I wonder which one. And there are some classes that can get Lifesteal a little bit better, depending on, you know, the subset of new cards. But you know, getting 2 of these, the Divine Shield, Lifesteal, Wind Furies, they become pretty powerful. So then it really depends on how much you draft. If you see Corpse Taker early on, then obviously you want to prioritize these effects a little bit more. If you see Corpse Taker later on, then you know when you want to take it, right? But yeah, at the end of the day, I think having one of these effects are just not enough to make it good. So I'm just gonna give this 3 stars. I think this is a little bit hard to make work in arena play. Death Axe Punisher, 4 mana 3/3. Battlecry gives a random lifesteal minion in your hand, +2/+2. There are not that many lifesteal minions in the set, even though there's a lot that was released compared to, like, you know, the previous set or whatever. And it gives it only +2/+2. So, you know, if it works, it's great. 4 mana 5/5, but you know, it's probably not gonna work, and it's probably just gonna be a 4 mana 3/3, and you're gonna be pretty sad about it. Upside, okay. Downside, really bad. That is the definition of a 1-star card. Next, we have Meat Wagon. For 4 mana, you get a 1/4 mech. With Death Rattle, summon a minion from your deck with less attack than this minion. So, no, I'm pretty off this, because so there's a big problem with this card, right? Because when you draft this, how are you going to activate this? Well, first of all, you want to draft some zero attack cards. So the only 0 attack cards I can think of are Shaman Totems that you actually get. The second way is to buff this attack, and then you get a minion, and then it's really awkward too. And thirdly, it's also 1 attack. So like, what the hell are you doing for 1/4, right? So yeah, overall, I think this is just a bad card. I don't think I want this 1-star card. Rattling Rascal is a 4 mana 2/2 that summons a 5/5 skeleton, so that's pretty strong. What's the downside? Well, when it dies, your opponent gets a 5/5 as well. So effectively, you're playing a 4-mana 2/2. I think this is fine in all-in strategies. So you know, classes like Druid that wants to play as much as on the board as possible would be really good because it kind of makes your 5/5 have semi-taunt, right? Like pseudo taunt. So I think this is okay. The fact that most of the time, your opponent is going to have a hard time dealing with this makes this also a little bit stronger. For example, if you play Rattling Rascal and they don't have something that deals 2 damage, well, it just stays on the board. You get a 5/5, you get a big tempo lead, right? So I think because your opponent has to work to kill this, I think this is okay. I guess it also synergizes with Evolve because the skeleton that you summon is 5 mana. So, you know, a little bit of a big improvement for Shaman. But I think overall, this card is 3 stars. I think the awkwardness of forcing your opponent to deal 2 damage to this makes this okay. Tomb Lurker is a 5 mana 5/3. Battlecry, add a random Death Rattle minion that died this game to your hand. So it's a very, very specific in that it requires you to actually lose a Death Rattle minion, but then you get to actually draw a card. So I think this is a worse Lotus Agents because Lotus Agents always works. And it's a 5 mana 5/3 as well. This one has a little bit more of a setup cost. So I'm going to go ahead and give this 2 stars. I think you know, if you have a lot of good Death Rattle minions that you want to play this, but even then, you still have a setup cost. It's not like it's just put it in your deck and be happy. Furnace Fire Colossus is a 6 mana 6/6. Battlecry, discard all weapons from your hand and gain their stats. So 6 mana 6/6 is already fine. Unfortunately, this doesn't give you an extra effect usually, because in Arena you never want to discard your weapons. I mean, like, dude, sometimes you just want this to be a 6 mana 6/6 vanilla creature, if possible, right? So yeah, this just gets a 3 stars, and that's pretty much what it is. 6 mana 6/6 is fine. It doesn't get a star rating change if you're playing weapons or not, because you don't want to discard weapons in the first place. Next we have Skulking Geist. It's a 6 mana 4/6 with Battlecry, destroy all 1-cost spells in both hands and decks. So basically it's a 6 mana 4/6. 6 mana 4/6s I don't really want in my deck. They don't really trade upwards. It reminds me of the Harbinger from Whispers of the Old Gods, Ancient Harbinger, right? Where it's really hard to get a 10-drop in your deck in the first place. So yeah, this is not going to happen. 1 star. Nerubian Unraveler, 6 mana 5/5. Spells cost 2 more. Now this is a very sneakily good card because it protects your board from AoE, which is interesting, right? Usually this is actually costed at 6 really, really well because turn 7 is usually the turn that, you know, you get meteored, you get flame strikes, you know, you just get your board wiped. If you're playing a very big minion heavy game, like, you know, very board centric, such as a Druid or something like that, then a Nerubian Unraveler is going to be great. It also makes your opponent's remove spells really, really bad. It does have a bad body, but it gives your whole field spell shield. It's kind of like a weird spell divine shield kind of effect, right? So I think with that, this card is actually fine. Like, I would be okay with this. So it's a 3-star card. All right, onwards to our legendaries. We have the first one is Prince Kelisif. It's a 2 mana 2/2. Okay, so that's fine, right? 2 mana 2/2. But what does it have? It has Battlecry. If your deck has no 2-cost cards, give all minions in your deck +1/+1. I cannot imagine a good Arena deck with no 2-cost cards. It's just impossible. In Arena, you want your 2-drop cards, not because you want to play them on turn 2, and it's because you want to smooth out your curve in the late game, right? You're not going to get a 6-drop sometimes at turn 6. So sometimes you want to play a 4-drop and a 2-drop. So Prince Kelisif basically says no to all that. So it's effectively a 2 mana 2/2. And 2 mana 2/2s gets a 1 star in my book, okay? Like 2 mana 2/2s that do nothing. Not a big fan of those. Next, we got Prince Taldaram, 3 mana 3/3 with Battlecry. If your deck has no 3-cost cards, it becomes a Faceless Manipulator and transforms into a 3/3 copy of a minion. Now, once again, like in Arena, you still want 3-cost cards. I can't imagine like playing no 3-cost cards and actually having a functioning deck because the curve is so important, right? So I'm pretty down with this card as well. I think this effect is really, really strong and constructed, but in Arena, it's just like drafting no 3-cost cards is just a big problem. So yeah, I'm just gonna give this 1 star. Prince Valinar is the last prince. It's a 4 mana 4/4 with Battlecry. If your deck has no 4-cost cards, gain Lifesteal and Taunt. So this card is the best prints out of all of them in Arena, but it's still pretty bad. Because like 4 clutch cards are still also very important, right? I mean, this is a more relevant effect because Lifesteal and Taunt, like, you know, sure, why not? But it doesn't even improve its battle stats, right? Lifesteal like gives you back health. Taunt gives you a little bit of board protection, but it doesn't give like Divine Shield or like Charge or anything like that, right? So I think even though this is the best prince, it's still very bad. So it's still 1 star to me. I lied. Okay, it's 2 stars because it's a 4 mana 4/4. Yeah, sometimes you want to play 4 mana 4/4s because it's 4 mana 4/4s. So yeah, it's the best prince. 2 stars. I'll give it 2 stars. All right, next we have Arthas. It's the cute doggy. Spectral Doggy, 4 mana 2/2, Beast. With Death Rattle, add a random Death Knight card to your hand. So as we know, the subset of Death Knight cards are really, really powerful. And it's powerful enough that you want to play a 4 mana 2/2 that draws you one of those cards. Like, sometimes you just win the game when you play a Death Knight card. You get Frostmourne, and you start, you know, wrecking their board. You get something like Death Coil, and it's like super versatile. You get Doom Pact, and it's like ridiculous because it just wipes your opponent's board. So Arthas is a very, very good card. I think it's you know, at the end of the day, it's still a 4 mana 2/2, but the card you draw is so powerful. So it's kind of like one of those things where, you know, it's kind of like a setup, right? And I think it's like fine. So I will give this 4 stars. I don't think it's like an insane 5-star legendary that, you know, some dragons and some class legendaries are, but I think you would want to have this. So yeah, 4-star card for Arthas. And the final card, the biggest baddie of them all. It's the Lich King, 8 mana 8/8 with Taunt. Okay, sure. You can just stop right there and I'll be okay happy because it's a Iron Bark Protector, right? At the end of your turn, add a random Death Knight card into your hand. Are you kidding me? You're getting an insanely OP card. And what's the downside of this very good effect, you might ask? Well, you get an 8 mana 8/8 Taunt. Like, what are you doing, okay? What are you doing? This card is actually insane. It stabilizes the board. If your opponent doesn't kill it, you get 2 Death Knight cards. Okay, this card is easily 6 stars. It's the best arena card in this set. I think you would want to draft Lich King every time you see it. And yeah, your opponent's gonna go like, oh god, no, I have to play around a stupid Death Knight card. I need to kill the Lich King immediately. Yep, 6-star card for the Lich King. So that is the Arena Compendium. Hope you guys good luck in Arena. And as a final conclusion, we're gonna go ahead and see which classes got the most help in the Knights of the Frozen Throne. Okay, so the best cards, the commons and uncommons, and the commons and rares, and sometimes the epics, because epics pop up a lot these times. The classes that got a lot of benefit are Rogue, Priest, Mage, and Druid. I think they actually got really good cards. And the biggest losers are Shaman and Warlock because they didn't really get too many good commons. They really only got Despicable Dreadlord as Warlock, and as a Shaman you only got like Avalanche, I guess, and that's really much it. So yeah, hopefully those cards will still be viable because the neutral cards have been great, and you know, they still have their old cards to carry them. But hey, I'm gonna be super excited to play Arena and draft every single Death Knight card I see. It's gonna be great. Well, except for Valera. Yeah, Valera, you suck. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you tune into my to my streams. I think by the time that this video is out, you know, Knights of the Frozen Throne is already released. But hey, catch my streams anyways, okay? 6 AM PDT, all weekdays on twitch.tv/AmazHS. So see you guys there.